And we have coming up next our own Director of Medical Affairs, Dr. Srinivasan, leading a panel with two leaders in the digital diagnostics area. Prem, good to see you. How are you? And thank you. I'm handing the virtual podium over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Good afternoon. And terrific to be here and welcome Meghan and Gene, respectively from BioReference Lab and CUREX. So welcome to each of you to this wonderful session. As we get started, perhaps you could give us an intro to the audience so that we all have a better sense of your experience and some of the areas of interest. Perhaps we could start with Meghan.
That sounds great. My name is Meghan Ziobrio. I'm the Vice President of Growth at BioReference Laboratories, primarily focused on Scarlet Health, which is our mobile phlebotomy division. I joined BioReference just over a year ago. Prior to joining BioReference, I was at CVS Health, and even prior to that at Humana.
I guess it's my time. Gene Kakaulin, I'm a co-founder of CUREX. We run online allergen asthma clinic that operates nationwide. Our focus is on increasing access to patients with allergen asthma, and that's what we do.
That's fantastic. So you know, it's great to welcome you both. And as we get started, particularly with reference to the COVID situation and lessons learned in the past couple of years, can we just go around the panel and get your insights on how things have pivoted over the past 2-3 years?
Absolutely, I can jump in first. So as I mentioned, I joined BioReference a year ago. I have to tell you, it feels like 5 after the back and forth, the excitement and the investment that we've made in our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen major fluctuations in terms of utilization, just the general awareness of at-home diagnostics. And I think the other piece that has been really exciting for us is to see the uptick, the interest, and the understanding of at-home diagnostics, virtual primary care, telemedicine in general. Folks who had maybe never heard or never considered having a telemedicine visit are more than likely to have had some sort of virtual experience with a care provider through the pandemic.
Yes. And for us, like for everyone else, and the telemedicine-enabled business models, we have observed a significant growth in demand as people are reluctant to go and visit their clinicians in person. Again, our focus is on providing specialist care and providing people access to the specialist care. That includes seeing clinicians, specialized treatments, as well as diagnostics. And we have never seen greater demand for this type of service as we have seen in the last year or so.
So from your experiences and lessons learned, how do you, what are some of the items that you see that will stay with us in the practice delivery going forward? Perhaps, Meghan, you could start with some of your impressions in that space.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So as I think we're all aware, the demand for virtual care, at-home consultations, reimagining the way that you interact, pay for treatment with care providers has radically shifted through the course of the pandemic. Some of the other trends that we're beginning to see, some of these telemedicine types of companies or organizations were really invested primarily in non-emergent care. And now we're seeing a great shift into virtual primary care or the demand for that. And I think the question that we're excited to answer is the fact that with a virtual primary care relationship, you have to have access, you have to have insight into a person's full picture of health. And so that's where that next question becomes, how are we going to solve for diagnostics? All of these companies who have made investments in digital health through the course of the pandemic and ahead of that have been really focused on price transparency, convenience, and clinical quality. So now that we're expanding the relationships, we're trying to figure out what are the other conditions that we can solve through telemedicine, through virtual care. Diagnostics becomes that next question. What we're really excited to have invested in at BioReference is our mobile phlebotomy solution, Scarlet Health, as a companion product to some of these types of organizations. We will send a full-time employed mobile phlebotomist to your home, collect blood, urine, swab for COVID, send that back to one of our commercial laboratories through the country, all with the goal of pushing these insights to these different types of organizations who are trying to solve the problem of how do we fit diagnostics in a convenient, price transparent, with the highest degree of clinical quality into these virtual care experiences.
Totally. And I'd like to echo what Meghan said. So from our experience, right? And again, it comes from kind of in this space where you have, more than 60 million Americans who have allergy and asthma symptoms, and historically they have relied on primary care physicians for their care, who are frequently not well equipped to do diagnostics or to do certain treatment types, and just to provide kind of ongoing care that is necessary for this patient population. So for us, as we think about our offering, kind of the word that comes to mind is integrating consultation, integrating diagnostics, and integrating pharmacy solution. And all of it needs to work very well together. Otherwise, you cannot provide a great experience, right? And BioReference and Scarlet is kind of one of our partners for diagnostics. And if you think about it, experience that people have with us, sometimes they would start, kind of the journey and treatment, online, but the first face-to-face experience frequently with a phlebotomist who comes out to their home to do a sample collection. So that, if something goes wrong, or if the person comes across as unprofessional, right, or if the results of that test are not clinically significant, or it's a bad quality test, it all reflects extremely poorly on us. So having a perfect integration of all of those different pieces is extremely important to us, particularly since the expectations that consumers have for telemedicine-enabled businesses most stems from people's experience with e-commerce, right? What Amazon has trained all of us as consumers, people bring the same measuring stick to usage of healthcare services, when it is enabled by telemedicine, right? And we need to have this fully integrated, extremely well-functioning package. And if one piece of it doesn't work, it reflects extremely poorly on us.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's a very timely discussion, not just in the diagnostic space, but also perhaps in other areas that you're hoping to grow in the upcoming months and years. So I think it's fantastic to hear these great insights. In addition to the phlebotomist, are there other types of services that BioReference may provide in the consumer space? Perhaps you can highlight a few things.
Yeah, it's a great question that you ask, and we're seeing a lot of movement kind of in the diagnostic marketplace, knowing that many of our consumers today are, again, focused on price transparency, convenience. Really where we are investing is trying to reimagine that collection experience. When we started with Scarlet Health, we started thinking, what are the pain points? Why are so many Americans not getting the labs that are prescribed to them? Is it because they don't have access to transportation? They don't have childcare? They can't get time off of work? And so really the largest investment that we've made has been in this network of mobile phlebotomists to try to remove some of these issues. Of course, we want to make sure all of the tests that we are, putting out there into the universe, for patients, for consumers to engage with, really are of that highest clinical quality standard. So they are all routed to our CLIA licensed laboratory. They're all FDA approved. So that's truly where we're making our investment. Some of the other areas we're investing in: experience and access. So in terms of our experience, we have an NPS score that is just north of 90. And I think a big piece of that is because the fact there are so many barriers to visiting a patient service center. There are so many barriers in trying to test yourself at home. We also know that many of the folks that are having a visit with Scarlet Health probably haven't had a medical procedure take place in their home. So we're really trying to invest in an experience that feels white glove, that feels concierge. You're very comfortable throughout the entire experience. But the other piece that we've made significant investments in is in access. So although we want this to feel like white glove, we want this to feel concierge, we currently have access to just north of 90% of the continental US population. we're predominantly focused in markets that have been underserved communities, patient service center deserts. How do we bring this type of experience to all Americans to make sure that those diagnostics can be completed so that we are identifying diseases earlier, we are managing care in a way that isn't disruptive or doesn't have as much friction for the average American?
Well, thank you both. Well, and delighted to hear your insights, and thank you for taking time from your busy schedules, and welcome back, Stan, and the virtual podium is yours.
All right, well, thank you again, Megan, Gene, and Prem. Wonderful, wonderful conversation.